Okay, so what we're going to go over in this video is the measurements that we have posted on our website. And the measurements should be used as a tool for comparison between the measurements on our site and not used as a tool to look at other measurements posted of our headphones on other websites on the internet. And the reason is because you can't take any specific measurement rig, whether it be a Gras 45CA, the one we use, the Brule & Care 5128, or the Larson Davis 206. A lot of measurement rigs do have the 7108 couplers, but the issue comes that a lot of them have different pinna in how they're used. A lot of them are measured in different environments. A lot of them are measured without the handler making sure that they have wave patterns that line over each other for proper seal. You may not be measuring at the same decibel level. Measurements are something that can definitely be manipulated by the operator in many different ways, and so that's why you should really only compare measurements and read measurements as such from the same system, taken using the same methods every time the measurements are taken. And personally, all the measurements on our site, as we'll go look at right now, are taken at 94 dB. And you can see also, you'll want to look at the X and Y axis on the graphs to see like, hey, how much is it between the X and Y axis to see what the decibel level is of the changes. So when you're looking at our site, the main purpose for these is not only so you can kind of look at the general response of the headphones if you're someone who's into measurements, we have the raw measurements here too, but also see the differences between how the HATS measures as far as that compared to the AECM 206, which is a 7108 coupler, and see what the differences are there just for fun, but also to see the response of our recommended pads for each headphone, so you can get an idea of how the pads change the response. And so as you go through each headphone, this is the main purpose that I would use on our website for the measurements, aside from just looking at the graphs, is looking and just saying, hey, for the recommended pads from ZMF, how do they change? And you can see, on the Verite closed here, the Autor pads, the Autor Lamb Solid, which is the solid pink line here, and then the Autor Suede, both taken at 94 dB measurement. You can see the Suede is a little less bassy, a little more diffuse, meaning that it's damped a little more, and so those peaks in the treble are brought down a little bit. And we use the 7108 coupler on these just because I find that's a more typical measurement used, for most people who've looked at measurements, as the Brule & Care is still a relatively new measurement rig, so not as many people have seen or gotten used to the treble response measurements from those rigs, even though we do show it in comparison with the stock Autor pads and Lamb here, so you can just see kind of how the differences measure. I do think the treble response is more accurate in the 5128 Brule & Care coupler though. I would use this in conjunction with the pad page on our site. So if you go to the ZMF pads right here, you can kind of see the recommended ear pads. And while you can use most of the ear pads we make on any headphone, we only put the ones that we recommend for each headphone listed on each headphone. And you can see here for the Verite Close, there's a bunch of different pads shown, like BE2 Suede, there we go, BE2 Lamb, and just kind of see the differences in the measurements between each, whereas the stock Autor pad is that solid line, and then the dotted line is the secondary pad. And that's the thing, is we each have our own individual head-related transfer function, some HRTF, to where while these do measure different, a lot of people have different preferences in ear pads. I've even had people, even though you can see the BE2 Lamb measure less bassy, come to me and say they get more slam and more bass out of the BE2 pads, whereas that's the opposite with other people. So it's all about finding that kind of magical pad combination that works the best for your tastes. One couple notes I will make is just as far as suede versus leather. You can kind of see, maybe subtly in some of the headphones, but more obvious in others, that the suede pads typically have a smoother treble response, and that's because there's a greater damping factor. in there as far as the suede is concerned. That material just kind of absorbs more frequencies. You also kind of see that sometimes the decibel level is actually lower on some of the suede pads as far as the output is concerned. And that's, you know, also the same reason. It's kind of absorbing a little bit more of the sound waves there. So that's just something to realize, you know, with the distortion measurements. We took all of these in an anechoic chamber that we built. That's it for this video, and definitely check out our other videos on measurements, and I hope you enjoy seeing the measurements on the website. We're always trying to help educate you about how our headphones sound and what might work best for you. And if you have any questions on what pads you think might work best for your tastes or setup, you can definitely send us an email or ask a question in the comments of this video, and then, you know, we can answer your question and help everyone else too. All right, thanks, and I'll see you at the next video and other videos on the ZMF YouTube channel.